Yes, thank you so much, Carl, Misa. Beautiful rewrite on those lyrics. So that's what I want to speak about today, what I'm going to call divine discontent, right? That discontent that we feel in ourselves, and for some of us it may be showing up as just sort of a general ennui, a sort of general exhaustion, a tiredness, I don't even have the energy to fill in the blank, right? For some of us, it might be showing up as anxiety, as worry, as fear, as grief, right? Like, what is it that is not aligned for you, right? Within your heart, within your mind, within your beingness. And the way I understand divine discontent is I look at it as that sacred awareness between who we are, what's showing up, and who we are called to be, right? That's that divine discontent, that gap in between where I am right now and where it is that I can feel that I'm called to be. And that's why we sang Called to Be. And the idea is that this isn't just about my personal experience of divine discontent. This is also a collective experience of divine discontent. This is that as a community, we have this awareness of where we are, and yet we also have this awareness of where we are called to be. And they don't always line up. And so the first step around being able to release this discontent is being able to access it and use it in a way that is powerful and empowering, is that we got to own it, folks. We got to own that we are in discomfort. We have to own that this is not a pleasant place to be. And I know in Unity's teaching, we are a teaching around being positive, and we are a teaching about how everything is working together for our greatest good. And there is also what we are actually experiencing in time and in space. And we need to own it, because if we don't own it, it owns us. If we don't name it, it is acting and guiding and creating in your life, and you don't even know that it's doing it because you're too busy trying to ignore it to pay attention to how it is impacting you, to how it is impacting the world that we live in. So we need to own it. We need to name it. And then we get to activate our principles, and we get to choose anew. We get to choose from what we know is the very truth of who we are, of what we are. We choose in a way that moves us forward in our understanding. Because discontent can move us in two directions. It can move us towards discouragement, or it can move us towards discovery. It can move us in these two directions. So which way are you allowing your discontent to move you? Are you allowing it to wear you down? Are you allowing it to eat away at your awareness of possibility and potential? Or are you going to allow it to move you into a place of discovery, something that is constructive, something that is in service of our greatest and highest good? And don't get me wrong, I know that this takes and asks something of us. It is so much easier to just sort of sit in what is, especially right now, because there's so little stimuli that we're getting from the outside world. We're missing some of the pieces that has been so alive for us, that has been part of how we know how to interact with the world. We're not getting that right now. So we have to supply that for ourselves. And I got to tell you, I have been having my ups and downs with that entire process, because what I know I'm being invited into, and what I know that each of you is being invited into, is something that is potentially disruptive to your life. Potentially disruptive to the status quo, potentially scary because you don't know exactly what it is or what it's going to look like. We're all being called to change. We're being called to step into something larger than what we understand ourselves to be. And that discontent that we feel, that place, that space in our heart, where things are rubbing up against us, it is so important that we listen to our heart, that we listen to the pain. We spend so much time trying to push that pain away. And by pushing the pain away, we're also pushing away the possibility for us to grow and evolve and change and be stronger and larger and more empowered. So how do we do that? How do we stand and actually face the pain? How do we actually engage with the part of us that hurts? Like hurts. 500,000 Americans dead. That's larger than the size of Kansas City, Missouri. That is almost as big as the city of Atlanta and the city of Sacramento. Just take that in for a moment. And if we actually take that in, I don't know about you, but my heart breaks. I need to own it. I need to name it. And then I get to choose anew. How am I going to show up in the midst of this grief? How am I going to show up in the midst of so much sorrow and so much loss? How are you going to show up in it? Really show up, being a force, a place, a space for transformation, for hope. It begins with our principles. I've said this often that these principles saved my life, because I can remember a time when what is happening in the world right now would have completely undone me. I would not have known how to navigate it. I would have been spiraling out of control. But these principles of truth will ground us. They are a lifeline from our divine self to our little human self that gets so caught up in this story. So the principle that I lean into as I stand in this owning and naming and wanting to choose anew, really wanting to choose anew, is faith. Faith is our ability to perceive, to intuit, and most importantly, to believe. What do you believe in? Really, what do you believe in? Because what I come back to again and again and again is the love that is life itself, the evolving consciousness that we all are. I come back to again and again and again the capacity for us to put aside our seeming differences and to actually care for one another, to truly care. To care whether somebody's water is contaminated, to care whether somebody doesn't have heat, to care whether somebody is sleeping on the street, to actually care. That's what I want to believe in. That's the world I want to live in. And I know I'm not alone in that. I know that I'm not alone in that desire for a world that truly can work for everyone. So how do you anchor your faith? What do you do to support your faith in what you truly, truly want to see and what you believe? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the discomfort and to allow the discomfort to discourage and destroy, rather than to allow this discomfort to discover more of who you are, to strengthen your understanding of the divinity that is the truth of your being, so that you can step out, so that you can make change in your life, in the world. We can't keep doing what we've always been doing and expect to have a different result. So it has to start right here. So I have this quote from Howard Thurman, which I come back to often in my own personal reflective practice. In the stillness of the quiet, if we listen, we can hear the whisper of the heart, giving strength to weakness, courage to fear, hope to despair. the stillness and the whisperings of our heart. That's where we hear this divine discontent. That's where we hear who and what we are being called and invited to become. And yes, I understand that that can be scary, to step out into the unknown, to step out into a landscape where it is unfamiliar. And yet, when we are anchored in faith, when we are anchored in our principles of love and joy, it's literally like a weight gets lifted off of our shoulders, because I of myself do nothing. I of myself do nothing. There is that which I am, and that is what is doing the work, but it's not work for the I am. It's beingness. We're all invited to touch that divine discontent and to access it and let it literally be the bridge to our greater sense of who we are. Remember, I said it was that awareness of where we are now and who we are called to be, and there seems to be this gap. Our discontent itself can be the bridge that moves us forward. So we need to make sure that we pay attention to our pain. Pay attention to it. Don't push it down or move it to the side or even think that it's too much, because it's not. We're infinite beings. We can hold everything and anything that arises in time and space. And we need to welcome new beginnings. We need to welcome the change, which means uncertainty in one level, but it also means new possibility, new opportunities, new beginnings. And we hold all of this by embracing principles of truth, by reaching into the very foundations of what we know and teach. That love is, I am, you are, we are, and in that agreement, everything and anything is possible. So we just breathe into this together, because community is where we get to do all of this. We come together in classes, we come together to pray and celebrate, we come together, we hold each other, we lift each other. We anchor principles for each other when one of us is forgetting. Without this sacred community, without the sacred Sangha, so much of what already feels overwhelming would be so much more overwhelming. As Kate Thornton said so beautifully, that it's those points of connection. That is what it's all about. So where are you being invited to show up in your divine discontent? Where are you being invited to create a bridge for yourself from who you understand yourself to be to who you are called to be, built, anchored, structured on these beautiful principles of truth that we teach here in Unity? We need to listen to our heart, listen to the pain, be aware of it, and choose from truth. So let's take this into our time of meditation.